with this. This is an international peace issue and an international security issue, and it should be taken up by the UN Security Council, and of course we are recommending that as well. Yes, sir.
So I think my question is actually to Clifford Stone. You said that you had seen aliens on a craft that had crashed. I wondered if you could describe what they looked like.
I could, but it would probably take a whole lot of time. The reason I state that, when I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference, except for some of the things that they might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight, hearing. The situation is that you have various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation where the scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case, because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets, that they would take on some type of other being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are. But apparently we got quite a few of the species out there that are humanoid in appearance, and that creates a question that yet has to be answered by science.
Yes, and as I
text from the world's earliest civilizations, including Sumeria some 5,000 years ago, mention strange aerial phenomena and the beings who controlled them.
There are ancient records in which people describe different kinds of flying objects which they have seen. In some cases, the people were describing what they understood to be flying vehicles piloted by various categories of living beings. There are written accounts which describe this in great detail.
The images are provocative and controversial. Despite increasing public support for the notion that UFOs may have been visiting the Earth since the dawn of history, the scientific community is overwhelmingly skeptical about the subject.
mentioned seeing a lizard-like creature at Peasmore. Would you tell us more about that?
Yeah, on one occasion, it was just a single occasion, I was in the main corridor at the base, and coming out of the room, along the main corridor was this very large creature, very tall, well over 6 foot, being accompanied by 2 men in suits, which I took to be NSA operatives. They're the only ones who don't wear badges in the place. I just stopped in my tracks, very, very shaken. I mean, it's a very powerful looking being, very difficult to describe, just very, very tall, very well built, very strong, well over, as I say, well over 6 foot. It must have towered at least a foot over my head. A greeny, browny, mottled type of skin. I tried to take in as many details as possible, but as I say, it literally caught me unawares. I was really put into shock. Didn't know what the hell it was. It was just casually walking along the main corridor with the 2 operatives. Got a very strong sense of evil and nastiness about the thing. It worried me for quite a while afterwards. I mean, you know, you're never told. The security people are the last to be told what's going on. But it was inferred by others at the time that that was one of the reptile species. Of course, it didn't mean that much to me at the time. But every time you asked questions, no one wanted to answer. It was just strongly inferred that, yeah, that was a reptilian, you don't want to mess with that, and it was just left at that. But over the years, it just seems more and more plausible to me that that also was another creation from the base. It just, you know, there may well be reptilian races, but it's just as easy for the military to have actually made this thing, rather than it being an actual reptilian.
Like the rest of them?
Like the rest of them, yeah. I sit more happier with that yeah, that was actually made, rather than an actual species, yeah.
That it was a program-generated life form?
I'm pretty certain it was, yeah.
Did he make sounds or say anything?
No, he never looked at me. He just continued walking. There was no interaction whatsoever. I only got some interaction from the 2 guys who, I'm standing there, mouth wide open, gaping at this, and I just got the look from them, just you know, and they just continued, and I continued about my business. No, there's no sound, no speaking, no nothing whatsoever. It was just walking along the main corridor with the 2 guys. That was it.
Did you have any idea what his function was?
Well, again, you ask as many questions as you formulate afterwards, once you've got over the initial shock of what the hell was that. No one wanted to know, no one wanted to easily give answers to questions. It was a case of, well, you saw it, that was it, you know, don't ask questions. Troublemakers ask questions and they don't want that.
He was walking on 2 feet, was he, or 4 feet, or? 2,
yeah. So he's standing upright. I mean, as I say, I'm trying to take in. This all happened probably within 30 seconds. I'm taking it in, feeling, you know, yeah, I don't want to meet this on a dark night anywhere. Yeah, I never even bothered to look back. It was, well, the glance back I gave both the figure and the two guys was very brief. While I continued, that's it. I've got jobs to do. I'm away. That's not my business.
But over a period of time, you were there for upwards of a year or so altogether. Why did this one bit of 30 seconds? Why did this brief?
Because it was so out of place with what was going on there. I mean, everyone's so used to the 3 different phases, you know, of development of the PGs, and this literally stuck out like a sore thumb. You know, it's just not the usual thing you see around. It was just the once only. Yeah, it was very unnerving, very scary.
Any final questions?
You didn't see an insignia or anything on his clothing? I mean, he was dressed in something, presumably.
If it was, again, I never noticed. I didn't discern, you know, oh, that was skin and that was clothing. That just didn't, that wasn't there. It was just this tall being. I mean, mostly my focus was from, you know, chest upwards. I mean, the head, you know, was, you know, I was literally expecting it to turn around and face me, and then I wouldn't know what I would have done if it had done, but it just kept looking straight and continuing, as if I wasn't even there. So, no, I didn't take in that many details. What I saw was, yeah, quite enough, thanks very much.
Is there anything that you could say it looked like?
Well, Well, again, you've seen drawings that people have done over the years of supposed reptilians, Draco, whatever the names are given. It lizard-like. I mean, it literally is like a very tall, very big lizard. I mean, half expecting the big forked tongue to come out, but again, it's just what you expect, what you're programmed to expect a lizard-type being to be like.
Any idea why they would create such a creature?
Well, it's exactly the same like the normal, if you can call them that, PGs. I mean, they're there for military abductions. And there's an aura of mystery over the reptilians. They're the dangerous ones. They're the ones who are in charge. They're just continuing that. Yeah.
Anything finally that you would like to say to the CSETI group?
Well, as I mentioned...
Any word of advice on it?
Well, there is. I mean, there's insiders out there who probably know a hell of a lot more than I'll ever know. And there's a lot of people out there who want to come forward. Just give them the reassurances that they'll be listened to without being laughed at. They'll come forward.
Can you help in that regard?
Well, it's limited to what I can personally do. I mean, I can only help with people over on this side of the Atlantic, and I know there's a load of people
locally,
who are involved. And by making my documents known, they know that I was involved. It might make them a little bit safer in coming forward.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your time and efforts.
Okay.
So it begs the question, if we went from rodents to humans in 65 million years, what might dinosaurs have achieved? Had a dinosaur like Troodon continued to evolve, could it have possibly developed into something humanoid? A dinosauroid?
The dinosauroid was a thought process that basically was trying to emphasize the fact that dinosaurs were changing over time. The idea is that, well, maybe if they hadn't become extinct, then Troodon would become something like the dinosauroid.
Some scientists consider a world in which we may have rubbed shoulders with a dinosaur equivalent as highly plausible. Evolutionary paleobiologist Simon Conway Morris is among a select group of people who argue that evolution is far from random, believing that life, given time, will evolve via natural selection toward a few optimum designs. And they don't come much better than the human form.
The human is extraordinarily well designed. A whole arrangement is actually designed for a particular mode of life, which, as you can see, looking around us, is incredibly successful. Is a dinosauroid like a humanoid really a possibility? I don't really see why not. I mean, there are lots of different, if you like, designs out there in the natural world, but the humanoid is a really good design. If it's such a good solution for us, is it so difficult to imagine it could be a good solution for a dinosaur, therefore a dinosauroid? I don't see why not. Evolutionary convergence is the idea that from completely different starting positions, life, if you like, navigates to a very, very similar solution. But again and again in evolution what we see is that animals, even plants, even bacteria, which don't look anything like each other to begin with, end up slowly coming together to be sometimes almost indistinguishable. Life has a pattern, and it also suggests that maybe evolution has predictability.
Conway Morris has no problem envisioning an alternate 21st century with dinosaurs which includes one species, like Homo sapiens, that would have prevailed and evolved above all others of its kind.
let's imagine perhaps that the dinosaurs really did become some sort of dinosauroid. The great rock doesn't fall out of the sky. It's a bright light in the sky. The dinosaur says, what's that? No idea. The mass extinction is postponed. In fact, it's cancelled. So what's happening then? We've got the apes rapidly evolving, and then they're beginning to look over their shoulders because, just conceivably, there are also these dinosauroids doing rather similar things. And then, of course, it's fascinating to think what would have happened. Would it have been an evolutionary race? Maybe there would have been a winner, or maybe, ultimately, unbelievably, madly, it could have been perhaps even a cooperation.
The utopian notion of dinosaurs and humans sharing the planet may appeal, even be plausible, to some. But most paleontologists see the dinosauroid as an insult to dinosaurs.
There's probably some good ideas there. The brain was getting bigger, and they probably would have continued to outcompete other animals. But for them to become fully erect like humans, I think is a little bit fanciful.
Dinosaurs would have continued to develop. They would have continued to specialize. They would have adapted. But they would have adapted and specialized as dinosaurs. They wouldn't have become primates or primate-like.
The idea that dinosauroid could exist as a scientific question, it's bogus. It's about as bogus as it gets.
Dinosaurs probably would have continued along their dinosaurian trajectory, getting bigger brains and bigger eyes. But I doubt seriously that any dinosaur would ever end up looking like a person. And it is fairly arrogant to think that the end point of all evolutionary trajectories should sort of emulate human beings.